All right. In number 5, we're jumping to number 5 because number 4 is exactly like number 3. So number 5, we're going to find the measure of angle A. So first we need to determine if this is a law of sines or law of cosines. Any ideas?
Law of sines.
It is law of sines. How do you know that? How do you know that, Bryce?
Because B and AC
Nice.
both have measurements.
You have an opposite pair of parts. Stop. You have an opposite pair of parts. So that is the law of sines. All right, start with that pair of parts. So you have the sine of 119 degrees over 32. And that is equal to, what do we want to set it equal to? The A's, right? Because we want angle A, and we have side little a. 21 is opposite from angle A, so that is side little a. So we're going to set it equal to the ratio of the A's. So that would be sine of angle A over little a. Now, how does this problem look different? What are we looking for?
Wait, we have little a.
We're looking for what?
We have little a.
Angle A. Oh, sorry, my bad. We are looking for angle A. What do you have to do in trigonometry when you're looking for the angle? You have to use what? The inverses. So somewhere along the line here, we're going to have to use inverse sine.
That's a big dog.
All right, let's cross multiply. Let's do the 32 times the sine of angle A is equal to 21 times the sine of 119. Let's get the sine of angle A completely by itself. So what's got to go? The 32 does, right. So we're going to divide both sides by 32. Okay, so we have the sine of angle A is equal to this ratio, 21 times the sine of 119 over 32.
Which is 18 points.
So I'll put that ratio in my calculator. It's 21 times the sine of 119 divided by 32. So the sine of angle A equals this ratio of 0.573969188. I don't want to write that out. What should I do at this point? Take the inverse sine. That's the ratio. 0.5739, what's in my calculator is the ratio. Take the inverse sine of that ratio and find out what angle belongs to that ratio.
35.0.
So in my calculator at this point I can do second sine. Now there's a shortcut for getting that entire decimal exactly pasted into the spot. You do second and then you press your negative sign because it has ANS with that. That means answer, meaning paste the previous answer. So it pastes the previous answer. All right, so angle A is how big?
It's 35 degrees.
Approximately 35 degrees. All right, so when you're looking for the angle, make sure at the end, after you've already gotten the ratio, to take the inverse sine of that ratio.
If I keep the decimal throughout the whole problem and just like type it out, is that fine?
Okay, that's dangerous to get the decimal earlier in the problem and not do it in the very last step because the more decimals you use throughout those calculations, the further off your final answer is going to be.
I got 35.027.
Right, this time. But if you're doing calculations and leaving off decimals as you go
No,
along,
I'm typing in the whole decimal.
that's fine. That's fine. Okay, any other questions?
What's the
Guys, it gives you the exact answer.
Which part?
the inverse?
So you press you press second, and then you press the sine key, and that'll be the inverse sine. Do you see how there's sine -1 above the sine key?
Yeah, like I know how to do that.
Oh, and then I press second again, and then I press the negative sign because that enters the previous answer into that spot for me. It like copies and pastes the previous answer. That's how I did that. Did you get it? Okay. All right, one more problem. Let's look at problem number 6. So this time we want to find the measure of angle A. Do we have a complete opposite pair?
You know.
No, all we have is little b, little c, and little a. We have no angles at all. So this tells me to use the law of cosines. If you do not have that complete opposite pair, use the law of cosines. Obviously, the a's are going to be bookending this law of cosines because I'm interested in finding angle A. So at the end of the law of cosines, I'll have cosine of angle A. At the beginning, I'll have little a, which is 20. So I have 20 squared. Because the formula is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of angle A. So little a is 20, so I have 20 squared equals little b is 21, 21 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 21 times 17 times the cosine of angle A. Now this one requires substantially more algebra. You can't just type all of this in your calculator. First of all, the cosine of angle A is the variable, and the cosine of angle A is attached to the minus 2 times 21 times 17, and the only way to detach that is division. So you can't just combine all of this stuff right here. That doesn't work that way. Okay, just like we couldn't do 21 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 21 times 17x. I couldn't just combine all of these things because this is an unlike term. So just like above, that end part's an unlike term. So we've got to take care of things piece by piece. There's more algebra required here. So 20 squared is 400. It's okay to go ahead and combine those first two things. 21 squared plus 17 squared, that's fine. That's 730 minus 2 times 21 times 17, which is 714 times the cosine of A. I'm still trying to get to cosine of A all by itself. What can leave first? 730, yes. The negative 714 is attached to the cosine of A. The only way to detach it is division. So I've got to get that by itself before I can do the division. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 730 from both sides. Guys, this is the step where everybody messes up law of cosines for angles. So be very careful. All right, so I have negative 330 equals negative 714 times the cosine of angle A. Now I can get the cosine of angle A by itself by doing what?
Adding 714.
Dividing by
That's done.
negative 714. This is multiplication between the negative 714 and the cosine of angle A. The only way to get rid of it is division. All right, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so that's 330 divided by 714 equals the cosine of angle A. Meaning, I know what the cosine ratio is, I just need to know how big the angle is that owns that ratio. So what do I have to put in my calculator? I'm looking for an angle. What do I have to do? Inverse cosine. So I'm going to do the inverse cosine of that angle. Guess what? The inverse cosine of the cosine of A is just A. Take the inverse cosine of that ratio. So inverse cosine of 330 divided by 714. And you get 62 point, let's call it 5 degrees.
How you doing with it?
When you're looking for an angle, you always have to use the inverse whenever you're looking for an angle. And you do it at the very end of every problem. Meaning, there was another sign up there in the sign problem. We didn't take the inverse sign above. Right here in the sign problem, where'd it go? We didn't take the inverse sign of this one. We took the inverse sign of the entire ratio. So just be careful of that with the sign one. Where'd it go? Okay, get started on your homework.
Yay!